Who in their right mind would take a loan in order to gamble with cryptocurrency? Well, apparently a Redditor has done so, and he's up 25%. He took roughly 1 year of his annual income as a personal loan to buy Bitcoin. And I have done something very similar. Now, I didn't take the loan to directly buy Bitcoin, but I took a loan to buy Nasdaq ETFs. And I did this because of my crypto exposure. I made a separate video on this as well. I will link this directly after this video. Now, this looks completely insane, right? You're risking your own creditworthiness to gamble on crypto. But if you're really thinking about it, all you're doing is you're locking in your dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin to a degree. You make sure that you keep on saving in that Bitcoin. You take a loan of maybe 3, 4, 5 years. You make the payment low enough that you can easily serve this with your secure income. And you're locking in the price today. You don't just get the average price over the next 5 years of the cryptocurrency you're buying. Now, this move in general is super risky. You take on a certain liability to get an asset that fluctuates in price a lot. Bitcoin went down by 70%, even 80% multiple times. But in the end, it always recovered. And most people held during those crashes. Those 70-80% crashes, they only get generated because Bitcoin isn't that liquid. Only 15% of people actually sold Bitcoin during the crash. And so if Bitcoin doesn't get outlawed and fiat continues to inflate faster than Bitcoin is being mined minus being lost, then if you have long enough of a time horizon, it's only logical that Bitcoin will appreciate versus fiat. Now, you obviously can't do this with any cryptocurrency because most cryptocurrencies, most altcoins, they will not recover, but Bitcoin will. This is something I think this Redditor made right. He bought solely Bitcoin, nothing else. But there is something I disagree with. Apparently, he's expecting Bitcoin to hit 100k and sell by then. But I'm not sure if a fixed price target like this makes a lot of sense. Because a lot of people already thought in the last bull run that Bitcoin hits 100k. I think it's better to stay flexible and to look at what other long-term holders are doing. That's in the end the beauty of the blockchain, right? We can look at the transactions. We can look at what other people that bought 2 years ago, what are they doing? Are they continuing to hold during the rally or are they taking profit? And especially when the longer term investors are selling, that's a pretty red flag. That's when you want to sell as well. Because then the Bitcoin goes from the diamond hands, so to speak, to the weaker hands that simply just buy into the rally. Then further price appreciations become less certain. And of course, there's a way to quantify this. Look at this. Look into Bitcoin.com, the realized cap hodl waves. And here we can look at how much percent of all of Bitcoin is held by the people that own it for a maximum of 3 months. And when this is very high, a lot of the Bitcoin went from the long-term holders to the short-term people, to the new entrants. And see how this tends to peak out whenever the price also tends to be elevated, when it's at risk to come down. Right? These crashes are massive. Bitcoin went here from 20k all the way to 3.5k. Below that even, right, 3,200. And then we had another run up. This metric here peaked when Bitcoin was at 57,000. Very close to the all-time high, right, of 69,000. So we see the short-term holders taking over at the end of a bull run. So I think it's better to use tools like this. There are many, by the way, on this website. Look into Bitcoin.com. Many different approaches, but they tend to generate similar signals. It's better to evaluate the situation at the time to see how much hype there is, how much media coverage there is, how much trading happens in altcoins or in NFTs or in DeFi or whatever the new flavor then is. That's, I think, way more useful to time potential exit points than to just look at the fixed price target of 100k that might or might not come. That's the problem with trading, right? You have to be right twice. You have to be able to buy when we are relatively low, but you also need to sell when we are relatively high. And selling is actually the harder of the two parts. That's because of psychology, right? You do get greedy. You want the price to get a bit higher. Everybody around you tells you how great Bitcoin is and that it will go through the moon. And then you have to do something very, very contrarian. But also just on a mathematical standpoint, it's less likely to hit those tops. Here, we are for a relatively long time at these blue levels, right? This is just a regression, one of many approaches to time Bitcoin. We are at these low prices for a long period. So you can dollar cost average in for a long period. But look how we are only for a very short time at these elevated prices in the red and orange area. So it's easy to buy low. You pretty much randomly just grab those low prices, but you have a very brief moment in time where you can sell for these elevated prices. You can buy in every month, maybe in aggregate 20, 30 times, but you can only sell maybe 1 or 2 months when we are really, really expensive. So you have to use 10 times the number of Bitcoin that you have to sell here, a way larger amount. That coupled with the price run, that might also be a 10x. That means that in terms of US dollars, your selling might be 100 times larger than your buying amount. And most people don't do this, right? They don't sell for 100 times more of a US dollar amount than they bought in for. Most people are way too cautious when selling. They're hoping for further appreciations and miss the top. So I'm a fan of forced dollar cost averaging. If the payment is low enough and you can serve it easily, in the end, it's not even that different to buying a luxury car with your money, right? With a luxury car, you know that it goes down in price. With Bitcoin, you have the chance that it goes up. In my opinion, it's more likely that it goes up over those 5 years than it goes down. But be sure when you take on that much risk, that you also de-risk from time to time, that you do take profit. Don't have a fixed dollar amount in mind, but rather look at what are other long-term holders doing. When they are selling, then you should probably too. Feel free to join us on Telegram. I hang around here regularly. Simply search for Bitcoin Strategy channel within the Telegram app, or you can also click the link down below. Looking forward to chatting with you. Bye bye.